Hi everyone. I'm a little late getting started today. However, I have good reason. It's good fodder. And I'm taking a moment to invite. And I know that it's Good Friday. Some of you may be in a noonday service or something really special. I'm going to even turn around so maybe you can see this beautiful view. The only reason I didn't go over by the water is because there was so many people there. But gosh, it was such a nice backdrop. If you can take a minute and help me out a little bit and invite. I promise I won't be too long today. And it's a good reason for that too. I'm just inviting. That's what I'm doing right now. If you can also invite some of our sisters to join, that would be great. If not, whoever's here is the ones that's supposed to be here. It's a lot of inviting to do. Okay, so that's enough. Hey everybody. I'm going to turn around so you can see me. You may see the beautiful backdrop back there. Do you see the water back there? It's so pretty. Hey. Okay, so today, here we go, y'all. We're going to word number 5. And we're going to be... It's real simple, word number 5, because the backdrop has already been laid. And here we have, once again, the book of John. And we already laid the foundation for the book of John. So if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the other broadcasts, go back and go read for yourself what I've already said for the book of John. Just remember that John is the faculty of love. He is the forerunner of the I am, the holy I am, which is what Jesus represented. And here we have, yesterday we talked about how here we have Jesus saying, my God, why have thou forsaken me? And then the next words out of his mouth is, I thirst. And I have to go on, and this is coming really from my heart. I literally just got off of the table from receiving acupuncture. And while I was laying there, when you get ready to carry a word, usually it starts to marinate long before you deliver it. And so here I am, I'm asking, is this what you really want me to say? And I have a little story to tell you as we go, because we've already laid the foundation of what Jesus was experiencing, or what he could have been experiencing in the 9th hour. Go ahead now and invite. While you're listening, just go to the plus sign down there and invite some of our sisters in that's already in the group. Their names will pop up and you can just click their names and click invite. Thank you so much. Help me out a little bit. Go pick names you don't even know and invite them into the space. But listen, I want to go right into this, because as I was laying on the table, what was so ironic is one of my sisters, who I call my medicine woman, Tonia Aziz. She's my sister, but she's also been a medicine woman in my life. Well, she had been telling me to go and to see another medicine woman, a shamanic practitioner, and an acupuncturist, and all of this in order to birth my desires. And I literally, when I did the navigation for the GPS and realized where she was, I almost was emotional, because before I moved to Costa Rica, I was living in Laurel, and literally she was right around the corner from my house. And And even that was a message for me, someone who gives so much. And, you know, I thought about Jesus as I was thinking, have been thinking all week about the message that Jesus could be delivering and how it relates to us as women. And, you know, Black women in particular, do you know that we are worth over $1 billion collectively? And we spend more money on our outside than we do on our inside. We will circumvent things like going around the corner to the acupuncturist or to the shamanic practitioner like I did, but we will go and invest in the shoes or in whatever it is that we have placed value on, whether it be books, whether it be the car we drive, whether we're still trying to live high on the hog, as they say, and we're house poor and asset deficient. And so in particular, when it comes to Black women, I was thinking about not only are we $1 billion industry, but we are also awesome leaders. Oftentimes there are other sisters in our culture who are taking on our arts that we have been afraid of. Many of us have been afraid of this idea of pleasure. Isn't that ironic that the keepers of the flame have been afraid to enter into this space of pleasure, this space of goddess? And certainly some of us have even been arrogant because we definitely are fertile. We definitely are able to survive and to sustain ourselves. So really, sometimes when you become accomplished, you almost have an energy and a spirit of nobody can tell me what to do. But don't you know you can relate to Jesus because Jesus was already on the cross by now. And that's kind of like us, you know, as women. Sometimes we only respond to the pain and we don't respond to the invitation to pleasure. Pleasure, again, sometimes we believe that it's equated with something loose and lascivious. We think that that if we get too much of it, that we might lose our mind and lose our way. That's kind of how we have related to pleasure. And so I was thinking about myself laying on the table. I didn't know that I was laying on a crystal bed. I had needles stuck in me. Oh my God, I kind of get a little emotional as I'm saying this. I had needles, but these needles were therapeutic. And Jesus, you know, he had a different kind of piercing that was happening for him when he was hanging. So says the story. Remember now, the story of the crucifixion is historically questionable, as it should be. So even as I was laying there with the needles inside of me, with my muscles speaking to me, because if you are in tune with yourself spiritually, anything that happens with your body has a message. Anything that's going on in your body is a message of what's going on in your mind, your spirit, and your emotions. And so I was thinking about Jesus as I was laying there, and just the weekend before, I sat at a table with a group of leaders. Now, all of us came to get something from this conference, Heal a Woman, Heal a Nation conference, Unlimited You, which was super, I don't know how the kids say it, super fragilistic, something like that. Now, we were sitting at the table and everybody was talking and sharing transparently. And each one of us were clear about our purpose. And many of us were walking in our purpose. Many of us had already stepped out in our purpose. We had already said yes and made investments. Many of us had clients and followings and such. And what was so interesting is that the leaders at the table all had a dehydration point. Well, let me tell you something about our thirst before we get into the dehydrated leadership and thirsty followership. Let me say this about the thirst. Do you know that by the time you get thirsty, your body is already in dehydration mode? By the time your body starts to send you signals that your mouth is dry or you get a headache, you already are at dehydration. Okay, so now check this out. The body is starting to be dehydrated long before it gives you signals that is dehydrated. So you could be functioning, you could be going about your day, you could be performing just fine. But it's when you start to get the signal that you are dehydrated, you got to do something. In fact, if you don't do something, you can be hospitalized for not being hydrated. That's what we're going to put the context of thirst. But now let me tell you a little something about water. I didn't know about the water until I started to upgrade my awareness of how I was drinking water. And look at here. My husband and I invested in an alkaline water machine. And we sell alkaline water. I don't push it that much because it's a commitment that someone really has to make and really be mindful of their health. But look, so what I found out is that I was like, well, I drink water. I drink a lot of water. I can't go too long without water. And so what I learned from the people that about water, let me tell you something. Y'all ready for this? This is real juicy. So what I learned about regular water that has been treated with chemicals and chlorine and all the things, and if you live in Michigan, you can relate to what I'm saying. And so as I was looking at this whole thing about water, I learned that the molecules are sometimes too big in regular chemically treated water. And so therefore, when we drink the water, the molecules are not fully absorbed into our body, into our bloodstream, therefore not being able to nurture the cells with the hydration that we need in order to push out those things that are not supposed to be there, therefore taking us to the place of being alkaline. Water is a ministry in and of itself. Water can change your life. And so when you start to drink alkaline water, what the machine does is it helps to assimilate what nature has already created. Many of us don't have access to well water systems or fresh spring water or hot spring water that we can get in and put our body in and begin to heal ourselves or drink it and bring ourselves up to alkaline. You already know that with the 75% of the earth is water, 75+% of the body is water. The woman needs water. When you don't have water in your body, you begin to lack lithium. Do you know that lithium is what keeps you sane? Lithium is what they give in patients who are in the insane asylum. and I probably shouldn't say insane asylum. Well, let's just say in the mental health ward. They give you treatments of lithium. Lithium is what helps you to stay balanced. So sometimes when you feel depressed, when you feel overwhelmed, when you are out of sorts with yourself, most of the time you're dehydrated. And let me tell you a little bit more what I learned about thirst. Thirst is when your thirst is not properly quenched, because we're drinking all this simulated water, what happens is you begin to crave other things. So sometimes when you think you're hungry, you actually are dehydrated. Oh my God, that's good to me. Is it good to you? I'm sitting down today. I'm trying to make sure that I behave myself because I just got off the table and I know that my system is still working and still doing things. And so look here. So look, you think that you want one thing and really you need to go get you a cup of water. Somebody say, give me a drink. Will somebody please give me a drink? So no matter what it is that you are doing in your life, and no matter what your title is, baby, you better get you some hydration somewhere. And oftentimes we have leaders that are before us who are pouring out into us just like me. Somebody say just like me. If you're a leader and you are pouring out and you are giving, and you are a leader if you are a mother, you are a leader if you are a wife, you are a leader. Come on now. You look at the word, lead her. I'm focusing on the her in the leader, okay? In the leadership. And so look, so you are a leader no matter what it is. Sometimes you think you got to be a leader by having the microphone. You think you got to be a leader by having the title. You think you got to be a leader by somebody appointing you. But guess what? You have already been appointed. In fact, the word says, he who has begun a good work in me shall complete it. To the day of the Lord Jesus Christ. Why do they say that? He who has begun a good work in me. But Jesus, here he is. He says, I thirst. Just 2 words. He probably didn't have a whole lot of energy to say much else. He probably didn't have a whole lot of energy to give an explanation, to quote the 22nd Psalm like he already had done before. So now he just says, I thirst. Do you know that leaders get thirsty? Do you know that when you are a leader and you are thirsty, you are dehydrated when you continue to pour out, and you do not fill your cup? Let me tell you what not filling your cup looks like. Not filling your cup looks like nobody can tell you nothing. Not filling your cup looks like when you are hurting and you don't say ouch. Oh yeah, when you have built up your thirsty followership so much that you cannot be authentic about who you are and who you be. And sometimes who you are in the world is not all the time who you are in your private time. And so sometimes there's a disconnect, and that begins the dehydration point. So as we sat at that table, I can't tell their story, but I can only tell my story. I listened to each woman. Now, mind you, the more transparent we were with one another, the more we found that everything we needed was already at the table. That's good to me. Somebody say, he prepares the table for me. As we sat at the table, everything we needed was at the table in one another. Oh yeah, that what you need is in your sister. See, you put too much pressure for your mama to be everything. But don't you know that when you get a good sister, she can mother you? Oh my God, when you get a good coach and a counselor, she will nurture you in the places that your mother does not have capacity to do. Oh, come on now. When you get a good man, sometimes a good man will father you when you have been fatherless. In fact, and this is different when you have daddy issues, right? This is not when you got daddy issues, because when you got daddy issues, there's a deficiency. There's dehydration happening in your spirit. But it's a difference when your husband, your partner, your brother fathers you. And so look, sometimes when you are in leadership, you too are dehydrated and you need to get a drink. But now let's switch on over to the thirsty followers. Many of us, and I'm going to give you a good example of thirsty followers. We were talking, another good sister and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about this dude Tyrese. Y'all might know him. He plays in Fast and Furious, and he has a whole lot to say to women about how to be women. He has a whole lot to say to women on what women should do in order to get a man, to be a good wife, and he has a whole lot to say about women and their hair and how they should dress themselves and how they should keep themselves. So let's just use Tyrese for our example, but you can fill in the blank with any of these men who appoint themselves to talk to women. Come on now. And so look, so then Tyrese, we were talking about Tyrese, and black women are up in a roar, and Twitter tore him a new behind, and all of this stuff is happening around Tyrese. And he just got married, and his wife is mixed, and and he has stuff to say about that. And so look, thirsty followership, when you have unmet needs, when you have those daddy issues, any man that stands up with a microphone, you women, sometimes you run up behind them and you asking them, fill my cup, tell me how to get a man, tell me how to be a woman, tell me how to make you like me, tell me how to make you notice me, you tell me, because I want one just like you. I want somebody like you. Come on now, we want somebody to choose us. We want somebody to be picked. We already talked about that in the Marys and Me. And so thirsty followership, a lot of times we are so used to just going and have the word being told to us, but we don't study the word. We don't study and show ourselves approved. And then when we study with the same frame of mind that created the condition. Now look, I want to ask you one good question. Somebody put it in the chat. You don't have to do it right now, but I really want to ask you a question. I really want you to know, I want want to know what you really think about this. When you look in our community and you see a church on every corner and a liquor store across the street, we got a whole lot of church and a whole lot of people drinking. What's going on? Tell me, we got a whole lot of church and a whole lot of Christianity and we got a whole lot of Jesus. But why is it that when something happens in our community, we don't have any fight? We don't have any we don't have any coalition. We don't have any unity. What happens? What is going on? Do you ever ask yourself that question? Do you ever ask yourself about the degrees that we have? Some people will try to say that black people are ignorant, but we actually are the creators and the inventors of many things that I'm still learning about. As conscious as I am, I didn't know about some of the inventions from some of my own people. So look, so that doesn't add up, does it? It doesn't add up. There's a missing piece somewhere. Now that's probably another lesson. That's probably another place to go. But I'm going to go there just for a minute because the answer kind of could be in front of us, possibly. I don't know, but it was just something that was told to me as I laid on the table. Dehydrated leadership, thirsty followership. What do they have in common? It looks like they got the ship in common. What's the ship? Well, the ship sits in water. Ain't that funny? That when we talk about relationships, we talk about leadership, we talk about followership. Come on now, name your ship. Where is your ship docked? Where is your ship docked? Because the ship sits in water. And when we begin to study admiralty law, it's different than the laws of the land. Y'all know I laid the foundation of laws: cosmic law, universal law, jurisprudence law. But do you know that much of the law, any of the laws really do coincide with the whole idea of ship? And look at the language of the ship, because when you start to deal with admiralty, when you start to deal with admiralty, and many of us have never been taught to deal with admiralty because we don't just go out into the waters. But do you understand that when you're out in the water, there's a different set of governance that happens? And do you know there's a word for that? Most of us have only heard of sovereignty as something that is reserved for people who are radical, who are going against the grain. But it's not true. Sovereignty happens through admiralty and knowing admiralty and where you fit in admiralty. But see, many of us as dehydrated leaders, we're not sovereign. And many of us as thirsty followers, we are not sovereign. So the idea of being sovereign really is sometimes sacrilegious to somebody who is still believing in a God who sits high and looks low. The idea of being sovereign is really foreign to someone who is thinking about a devil under the ground. Some of y'all still believe in fairy tales, and this is why it's so easy to accept fairy tales over and over again, just like we do with Easter, just like we do with Christmas. And you teach these fairy tales. The first thing the woman needs to do is stop lying to your children. Just stop talking about, I don't want them to miss out. The other children getting Christmas gifts, the other children getting Easter bunnies, but you lie. And then when they get in trouble, when they start lying, you punish them. Come on now. Let's talk about the lies that we tell. See, because lies contribute to dehydrated leadership. Because when a hydrated leader stands up, it looks kind of funny to us. Because dehydrated leadership kind of looks like thirst. When you're thirsty, you may think you're hungry. When you're thirsty, you may think you're sick. When you're thirsty, it takes on all kind of things, and you try to feed it, and that's what the followership does. But when you begin to dock your ship in the water, and you begin to honor the water, and you begin to understand the alkalinity factor of water. See, there's so many different types of water. There's fresh water, there's brackish water, there's salt water. When you begin to study the deities and the goddesses that govern the water, you cannot have earth without having water, because all life comes from water. And so when you say that you are dehydrated, you are really entertaining the spirit of death. And do you know that when you drink the right water, when you become alkaline, one of our slogans on our page, when we talk about the water, we say kick acid and alkaline up. Because alkalinity, woo, this is good to me. I'm doing this again with not a whole lot of notes. I had to go with the flow, just like the water. And so look, when you talk about alkalinity, what happens is when you get alkaline, the opposite of being alkaline is inflammation. All illnesses comes from inflammation. Cancer comes from inflammation. Infertility comes from inflammation. Muscle and joint pain comes from inflammation. Inflammation, inflamed. I probably could have just named this inflamed leadership and gone somewhere with that. But listen, inflammation, the way to heal inflammation is alkalinity. And that's what Dr. Sebi taught. He taught how to eat in a way where you restore the alkaline principle in the body. And so alkalinity creates self-healing. When you begin to alkaline, the body begins to heal itself. When you eat alkaline, when you drink alkaline. But that's one factor, because I want to talk to you vegans. Just because you so vegan and just because you fast every 40 days and every equinox, you are not necessarily alkaline. Your alkalinity also comes from the thoughts that you think and the way that you see yourself. So I propose to you, those of you who are leaders, those of you who are thirsty, that you better try to say, where is my cup? Pass me my cup. You better start drinking. And when you start drinking the things that are going to feed your alkalinity and not deplete you even further, because you will think that you're drinking. I'm drinking because that's what many of us say. I'm doing it. I'm doing my affirmations. I'm praying. fasting. I'm helping people. This is for all helpers of human, including me. Therefore, the grace of God go I. I'm talking to myself when I'm talking to you. I am not exempt. And good leadership will tell you we are not exempt. And that's what we talked about yesterday. We are not exempt from the pain. And so when you are a leader and you are in pain and you stand up constantly and you don't teach, share, and expose the pain, you are out of order. I'm taking a breath. Even our breath helps us to be alkaline. And so listen, Jesus said, I thirst. Sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot of words to signal the universe that you are ready to be hydrated, that you are ready for something real, some real sustenance, some real nourishment. Because when you start to get the real thing, then it begins to nourish you. But guess what? It's going to push out the impurities that's already in the body. And many of us don't want to go through the detoxification. The detoxification must happen. And what happens on the other side of detoxification is retoxification. You know, you do a fast. I did one. I was fasting. I was doing 100% vegan alkaline. That's really, really strict. I was doing vegan alkaline and I was having these spiritual awarenesses. See, what happens is when we're out of order, a lot of times our spiritual gifts cannot even be nourished. Our spiritual gifts cannot even come forth. So that's why many of us have the fear factor when we relate to food. We have the fear factor when we relate to anything regarding the goddess and the feminine. We have the fear factor. Why? Because we've been programmed with a dogmatic hell and damnation consciousness. Hell and damnation is toxic. Hell and damnation it does not detoxify you. Hell and damnation makes you afraid of everything, including your own divinity. But when you walk into your divinity, when you begin to embrace your divinity, when you begin to know that your orgasm is sacred, when you begin to know that even the choices that you made that seemed like they were wrong for you, even that is sacred. Because if you had not have made that choice, you wouldn't be able to be in the space to make new choices. But sometimes you have to get to the place where you can say, I am thirsty. Give me a cup. Give me a cup. Pass me a drink. Come on now. And then when we talk about followership, let me tell you something. Some of y'all who running to be coaches because you see the title, you see the brand, you see the this and the that. Do you understand that you must do your work, because you will attract to you more of you? If more of you is inauthentic, if more of you is unhealed, if more of you does not do anything to work on yourself, you will attract more of you thirsty followership. And so you will attract people who deplete you. You will attract people who drain your battery and not charge your battery. I get charged up by the women who are doing their work, no matter how it looks, no matter how it sounds, even if they're protesting and rebelling a little bit, because there was a phase in my journey where I protested and rebelled. There's a phase in my journey where I focused on the money that I didn't have, and so I didn't make the investments, and I prolonged my thirst. I prolonged the time of me birthing what it is that I have that needed to be released in me. Everything that needs to be released in you, you can't do it. Sometimes you need somebody to come with a different set of eyes, with a glass, with a cup, and say, let me give you something to drink. Sometimes you need somebody to stand in the gap with you when you've been standing in the gap for everybody else. Sometimes you need to stretch out your arms and let yourself be carried. Sometimes you need to place your hands in the air and feel like what it is to fly free, unencumbered by worrying about being right and being wrong, unencumbered by getting in trouble, unencumbered by what it is that you're trying to be good and accepted and faithful and loyal about. Sometimes you got to just jump out there and experiment with your own life. Yes. And sometimes it may look crazy, but at least you can say, I'm hydrated. Because look, we got a saying down south. I don't know about y'all in the north, and we got a lot of sayings. Country people got a lot of sayings, and island people and African people definitely have plenty of proverbs. And so look, when you get hydrated, it sounds kind of like the streets. When you've been out partying, when you've done your thing, when you've had a good time. And if you had a phase in your life where you allowed yourself to explore, to date, some of y'all so busy trying to be the wife, you don't even know how to date. You don't know how to be the girlfriend. But when you're always trying to get to something, acquire something, you don't know how to be present in it. Well, see, I have a cousin, and she went to all the parties. She pledged the sorority. I missed the pledge in the sorority because I was too busy getting married. I was too busy trying to please God of my understanding at that time. Okay? I'm going somewhere with the saying. I'm about to tell you the saying because it's real simple. We say, them streets don't owe me nothing. Why the streets don't owe you nothing? The streets don't owe you nothing because you did your thing. You're not thirsty for nothing. You're not feeling like you're missing anything. You know yourself. You know that you had a good time. You know what it is that you like and you don't like. You know what your preferences are. You know what your turn-ons are. You know what your erogenous zones are. Do you think that doesn't go together with the 7 last words? Oh yeah, it goes together. Because remember, the 7 is symbolic. The words that Jesus spoke always was symbolic. And so many of us are looking for our cup to be filled. But sometimes life will force you to empty out your cup. Some of us are too full with other stuff that there's no room for the liquid to get into our cup and hydrate us And then some of us are drinking from waters that do not have any nutrients in it. And that's why we as a community, we keep on recycling foolishness, because we are under a collective spell in the name of Jesus. And it doesn't mean that you have to let go of your Jesus. But Jesus said, in all thy getting, get understanding. But don't just stand under it, stand in it. Get inner standing. And so I say to you, the next time you think about getting yourself a drink, if it's a sugary drink, what are you really craving? If it's a soda, what are you really craving? Do you know what fresh alkaline water tastes like? Do you know what it feels like when your body is alkaline? You go to the bathroom without having to take any herbs. When you're alkaline, your skin starts to get clear. You can put it on your skin. When you work with the water I sell, you can literally take the vegetables and soak it in the alkaline water, and the pesticides that they spray in America, not because other places don't poison their citizens, but anyway, the pesticides that are on the vegetables, they begin to deteriorate because alkaline goes into the alkaline water, dissolves impurities. And so therefore it flushes it out of the body, and it cannot live. In other words, ill health cannot live in an alkaline environment. And don't you know your spirituality, your divinity as a woman, your connection with who you are in purpose, pleasure, and passion. I'm always going to say those three because those are the three that I know has worked consistently in the processes that I have led. When a woman is clear in her purpose, even as a leader, there's a point in time where she must take, a good leader hydrates herself. That's why you see women like Beyonce, when she goes, she works real hard, and then you see her playing around on a yacht. It's not about just being flashy. It's about deserving the best. It's about if I work hard, then I play even harder. I deserve it. When you live in pleasure, pleasure replenishes you. It makes you alkaline to yourself and to your spirituality because you're no longer fighting and at war with your desires. When you accept pleasure, you're not at war with your desires. Your desires begin to make room for you, just like your gifts. You with me? When you nourish your passion, you never have to work a day in your life when you are living in your passion, when you are in a relationship filled with passion, when you are talking with passion. There was a time when I didn't want to get online and talk like this because I know I'm a passionate speaker, and I was afraid that I might intimidate people or people might find error because in my childhood, I was told things like, that mouth gonna get you in trouble. See, you gotta do the work. That is why you must go back to not just the belief. See, you think that when somebody's talking about Jesus, that they're coming against your belief system, but your belief system is the very thing that keeps us enslaved and never sovereign. I invite you to get hydrated. I invite you, whether you are the leader or in some cases the follower, to get hydrated, to get alkalined in your walk with your femininity. Alkaline your femininity. Alkaline your sacred and divine mothership. Alkaline that part. I'm doing the same thing. I would not invite you to do something I either haven't done or that I am doing. Alkaline your relationship with love, sex, and money. Alkaline yourself. Now, when you think about the next drink that you take, I want to close with this. Water has another property. Water can be programmed by your words. Water can be programmed by affirmations that you speak. Speak to the water. Oh God, that's good right there to me. Speak to your water. Program your water. My friends who introduced us to the alkaline water system, we use medical grade alkaline water. This is not alkaline water that you just go and buy in the store. Medical grade alkaline water is a different type of thing. And so listen, what they said to us was that when they started drinking the water, my friends, they did everything. They were a couple who partied hard. And they lived a different kind of life than I knew about in my world. And they said when they started drinking the alkaline water, something started to wake up on the inside of them. When they started drinking the alkaline water, they started being led to spiritual material. That is because when you alkaline, you are bringing yourself into, when you are hydrated properly, you are bringing yourself into alignment with your own DNA. Your DNA is sacred. Your DNA becomes activated when you give yourself permission to be hydrated by a different source of water, a different stream. You don't have to drink from one stream of water. Sometimes the streams have different purposes. Allow yourself to be nourished by the streams that the divine has placed here. And so, are you ready to come into the Juicy Spirit Awaken Rites of Passage process yet? I really want you to come. I really want you to self-select. No matter what your title is, no matter who you are, I want you to come into the Juicy Spirit Rites of Passage process, because this process will hydrate you. This process is no respecter of persons. I have had first ladies. I have had pastors of churches. I have had executives, mothers. I've had single, married. And this process has hydrated women far beyond what they knew. And that, my sisters, is why I call it Juicy Spirit, because your spirit is juicy when it's hydrated. And yes, you can be dripping wet, pouring over, orgasmic, not just in your body with a mate, but you can be that in your life. I'm so grateful that I can testify because I certainly have been tested. I have been tested. I have been the good girl. I have followed the rules. I gave my life to religion. I covered my head. I changed my diet. I've jumped through all of the hoops, but it wasn't until I came into this walk with the sacred and divine feminine that it began to line up. And it still is. I'm still being birthed. And that is why I have ReBirth International, because I am constantly birthing a new part of myself, and you can too. And so Juicy Spirit starts in May. You are invited. I want you to self-select. Send me an inbox and ask me, knock down the doors, demand to be in the space. Kick your exceptions to the curb, or call them out whatever it is your exceptions are. Exceptions are the things that tell you that you can't do it, whether it's time, whether it's money, or whether it's some kind of worry. What if there's a way for you to have your yes water other parts of your life? So would you just say yes? If I told you what was required of thee, I would just still say yes. So thank you for sharing this special Good Friday with me. I hope that you all are having a fabulous time. I will be in here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And on Sunday, if you've never joined the Super Soul Star Sunday space, yes, we are meeting on Easter Sunday. We have never missed one holiday. We have never stopped. We will continue to hold this space. I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I'm looking for you, more of you. Some of you have already said, I want in, I'm all in, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Some of you said, I'm finding a way. I'm getting my deposit together. The deposit, well, I'm not going to go into money because I want this video to be timeless, so that if someone sees this next year, that they can come into the spirit rites of passage process. So I love you all, for real. I'm gone this time. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Ciao.